All right, the room quiets down nicely. Get us going here. Welcome to the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority meeting this Wednesday, May the 4th. Be with us all in 2022. Mr. Watson, will you please provide us with a roll call?
Good afternoon. Micah Bartelme. Here. Alexandra Deck.
Here.
Milton Dehoney. Here. Shihei Kim.
Here.
Tyler Kinley.
Present.
Marie Klump.
Present.
Jessica Lataw.
Lita. Here.
Jonathan Massey. And Darren McKinnon.
Present. I believe we have a quorum. Wonderful. Thanks all for being here. To kick us off, we'll do an approval of the board meeting agenda. It's before you and on the wall up here.
I'd like to request one change, which is that we move executive committee review up ahead of ahead.
Executive committee review up ahead of ahead.
Yep.
The board meeting agenda. So, okay, all those in favor of moving subcommittee report E up ahead?
For
Can I get
the, for the amendment or the whole agenda?
For the amendment.
Okay.
Amendment, we have a motion to move the executive
So
committee
moved.
ahead.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of moving executive committee ahead, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. All right, thank you, Jess.
And then we need to approve the overall.
Right, I'm just get
Okay.
remembering,
I'm good.
wrapped around.
It's
this
hard when
here.
you're the one in the seat.
I know. So do we have a motion to approve the board meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second. Wonderful. All those in favor of approving the board meeting agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The agenda is approved. Moving ahead to public comment. We have 4 people maximum. We have 2 here with us. The first is Francis Todoro Hargraves, the Executive Director of the State Seed District.
Hello, I'm Frances, and I'm here to talk to you today about the State Street Capital Improvements Project. We would like your support in response. I know the Capital Improvements Committee is making the recommendation that the project be approved, and we would appreciate the full board's support. These discussions have been going on since 2015 about this project. DDA staff and the district, and also businesses that are not necessarily members of the district, have met quite a bit over the last few years to get this project designed in a way that really helps the neighborhood as much as possible. We can't meet everybody's needs. Nothing is perfect, but this is something we believe is really going to take the neighborhood to the next level. The zero curbing is providing us flex space that does not eliminate parking. It keeps some parking, but it also allows businesses to make a decision if they want to extend their patios. It also gives us more flexibility when we're doing events on State Street that we've increased the number of over the last 5 years. And it's also bringing us more planter beds and irrigation that's going to help us keep the neighborhood more beautified, clean, give it a more comfortable appearance when people are walking around. The added additions as far as, any kind of new improvements to the roadway will be greatly appreciated, not just by the local businesses and the local residents, but also our art fair participants. We've had some challenges over the last few years, and everybody's really stuck it out, but we're really looking forward to having a new area and space for the event. So if you have any questions about the neighborhood or anything, I'm here, but we do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is John Split. I don't believe I see John Split in the audience. If he comes at the end or in the middle, he can have public comment at the end. Okay, so moving ahead to reports from city boards and commissions.
Peter Honeyman was unable to be here today, so he's asked me to read the brief notes from last evening's CAC meeting. The Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council, which works to advise the DDA and City Council about issues and opportunities that affect downtown livability, met over Zoom on May 3rd, 2022. After reviewing progress in establishing relationships with merchants associations and tree line activists, the CAC recapped its enthusiasm for the pedestrian safety and multimodal connectivity improvements planned for the State Street project. At its February 2022 meeting, the CAC discussed the State Street project in depth with representatives from the DDA, Smith Group, and the city. The CAC remains solidly in support of the project as fully envisioned. The remainder of the meeting was spent in conversation with Jeff Watson, DDA Director. Pardon me. The discussion explored ways the CAC might engage more directly with DAD leadership and staff, as well as with city government and the private sector, to advance the goal of improving downtown livability in the near and intermediate term, but paying heed as well to long-term issues, envisioning downtown Ann Arbor in 2030, 2040, and beyond. It is an ongoing story.
Thank you. Probably just going to call you right back up again here. Our next, number 6 is the Executive Director Report.
I'm just going to note that you skipped past DDA members' communications.
Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. DDA Members Communications. Do we have any DDA Members Communications? My apologies.
Thanks, though.
Yeah, no. Good catch there. I don't know how I missed that. Next up, correctly now, the Executive Director Report.
Good afternoon again. Just a few things, a reminder for the board, the Michigan statute, PA 57, requires DDAs to hold 2 informational meetings annually. Those meetings have traditionally been held in June and December, immediately prior to the board meeting. The first of these meetings is coming up for 2022 and will be held prior to the board meeting in June. The DDA's first and Ashley two-way restoration and bikeway project was awarded Wade Trim's Project of the Year. Wade Trim was the consultant for the project. It was selected among submittals from Wade Trim's 18 offices throughout the country. Community benefits, sustainability, innovation, and business support during construction were among the reasons for the selection. Only one project is awarded each year, and we should feel proud of our continued work and partnerships with them. Just a reminder, the council will consider and take action on the fiscal year 23 budget, including the DDA budget, on Monday, May 16th. We've not received any inquiries to date about the authority's budget following the presentation that was submitted in early March. There's still a little bit of time for that, but I imagine we probably will not hear anything, but if we do, we'll let you know. And lastly, Bike-a-Palooza will take place on Sunday, May 22nd from noon to 2 p.m. at the old Y lot at 350 South 5th. The event is to celebrate the progress being made on the protected bikeway network in downtown Ann Arbor. It will feature activities in the surface parking lot, as well as have 4 educational stations in locations along the bikeway, including a new rider clinic, mobile repair bike pop-up, cargo bike demos, and bike helmet fittings. Additionally, the City of Ann Arbor Public Works will have a bikeway snowplow on site, and our partners from the Library District, the Washtenaw Biking and Walking Coalition, and the City of Ann Arbor Office of Sustainability, as well as the Transportation Department, will join in the festivities. Happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Thank you.
Sounds fun. Thank you, Mr. Jeff Watson. Moving to number 7, the approval of the April 2022 minutes, as you'll see page 2 through 11 in our board packet. All those in favor, or do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move. Second.
Wonderful, thank you. All those in favor of approving the April 22 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The minutes are approved. Thank you. Moving ahead to the subcommittee reports. First up is the Capital Improvements Committee. Ms. Deek.
Thanks, Tyler. Sorry, my throat. I have a little bit of a frog in my throat. Kelly, should I read this whole thing when I move for the resolution? Okay, all right. So I'll draw your attention to page 14, but the Capital Improvements Committee, we'd like to move the following resolution, which is a resolution to approve a State Street construction cost share agreement with the city. And at this time, I'd ask for a second.
Second.
Thanks, Darren. So the State Street project is a collaboration between the city and the DDA with construction planned to start this summer. As a reminder, city engineering oversaw the procurement process here, and we will have it's going to be city engineering that has the contractual relationship with the contractor. The DDA's board decision today is focused on the cost share portion with the city. Staff have been preparing us for, and related to that cost share, staff have kind of been preparing us for several months now that we're going to see potential price increases due to inflation and supply chain issues and labor shortages. And that's a longer way of saying that the bids came in higher than our capital improvements plan amount by about 22%, but it is still well within our budget capacity, and Sarah's here and she can talk about that as well. The CIC reviewed materials and we are recommending board approval. The cost share agreement is scheduled to be on City Council's agenda on May 16th, so we're kind of the first step here. And then, assuming that's approved, construction can begin after May 31. Pending approval of this agreement. And I do want to draw your attention, we had, members of the public comment, thank you for coming and speaking on it. We, the Capital Improvements Committee is also really excited, and on page 23, there is a formal correspondence from the State Street District, having their support in the record. So I just want to note that as well, and we're really excited to bring this here.
I appreciated the conversation at committee, especially given the cost increase and how that was broken out, and how we talked about kind of in detail the nuts and bolts of the cost share between the city. It was an in-depth conversation.
Yes.
I really appreciated it.
Yeah, rigorous, and we can thank Amber and Sarah for that. They really packed it. And I we've been saying we're all expecting these kind of, and it was directly, we saw that we got one bid that came back too. So we're dealing with a lot of things, and it makes sense, and we've kind of accounted for it in the budgeting.
Any further discussion, questions, comments from the board? All right, so I believe we have a motion to approve the resolution to approve a State Street construction cost sharing agreement with the city. Do we have a second?
Yes, we already did that.
Already did that? All right, so all those in favor of the resolution to approve a State Street construction cost sharing agreement with the city, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The resolution is approved.
Perfect. Thanks, Tyler. And then just some short updates from CIC committee. On Miller Catherine, the RFP will be released in May, and staff have evaluated the capacity in the DDA budget for Miller Catherine, especially in relation to these kind of price increases we're seeing with state. And will we have similar price increases on that project, and can we accommodate kind of both these projects? And then also in terms of repairs, the committee received an update on the sidewalk repair project underway to replace the bricks where there are no vaults with concrete. And DDA, City Transportation, and Public Works are working on design adjustments and maintenance vehicle changes to alleviate the ongoing issues of regular and service vehicles illegally parking in the bikeways. And the next Capital Improvements Committee meeting is May 18th. Oh, sorry, no, that has been canceled. The next one is June 8th, 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Moving ahead to the Finance Committee, we have Micah and Marie.
Thanks, Tyler. First, I'd like to direct your attention to page 27, and I would like to move the following resolution to put forward to City Council an amendment to the DDA FY22 budget, and I'd be asking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. A little background here. This is actually a good thing. Our actual parking revenues are at 91% of the annual budget as of the third quarter, so we're well ahead of projections there. As we're all aware, we do have cost sharing directly correlated to our revenues with the city, as well as costs for credit card processing that are directly correlated to the increase in revenue that we're capturing. So we're going to have to go back as per state law and ask for this budget amendment. Again, this is a good thing. That means we're getting more in, but that also means that we have to spend more out than we had budgeted for. The full resolution is on page 27. If there's any questions, we went over it pretty in detail in committee, and I'm sure Sarah will be more than willing to help me out in explaining anything.
I do have a question about timing, and I don't know if this is a question for Sarah or Milton. So I believe the council is doing a first reading of the budget tomorrow. Does this go to them in time for that, or this is in time for the approval, the second meeting of May?
This will be on the city's agenda, their first meeting in June.
Got it. Okay.
Oh,
okay. So
yeah.
just that amendment.
Yeah,
Got
so it'll be
Okay.
June 6th, and then it'll come back to the DDA board for adoption at the last meeting in June, June 29th.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And I believe this is for the 22 budget. I think city council's talking about the 23 budget.
22 budget. See, this is why we ask questions. Thank you.
Great. Any further questions, concerns? Comments? Okay. All those in favor of the resolution to support an amendment to the fiscal year 22 budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Resolution's approved.
Thanks, Tyler. Quick updates from Finance Committee. The committee did review the third quarter financial statements, and we also received and approved the January, February, and March expense registers. We also heard from Sarah, Accounting Director report. The city received notification from Yo and Yo that it would not extend its auditing service contract with the city. Subsequently, the city released an RFP for audit services, which includes the DDA's audit, and invited Sarah to participate in the selection process. I'll note that one of the applicants for the new RFP was Yo and Yo, so we may see them back. I believe they didn't like their current contracts.
Wow.
Renegotiation by new RFP. We'll see where that ends up.
Strategy.
That is a city process and a city procurement. They have asked Sarah to participate and weigh in, but the board and the staff of DDA has no say in that selection. The committee also discussed releasing the 2016 restriction on $2.5 million of parking funds for new construction, and there was interest expressed in reviewing a resolution at the May meeting. Little background on that. This was in 2016 when there was a bit more impetus and support for new construction. This is the time when Ann Ashley was going on, and there was money when we had an abundance of extra in the fund balance being set aside for new construction. As we have no new construction planned or in our forecast of capital improvement projects. We are going to be discussing and crafting a resolution to free up those funds from those restrictions to give us more flexibility to work with projects that we currently do have and needs that were deferred during the down cycle with COVID. So look for that, more on that as it comes out. Our next meeting will be Thursday, May 26th at 9 a.m. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Mike, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What's the ballpark amount you're talking about? The real
$2.5 million is right now in the restriction. That's restricted funds, but there, Sarah, can you help me out here? How much is set aside from revenues or fund balance going forward?
The 2016 resolution called for $1 million that year, and then we put aside some more, so the total right now is 2.5. But we haven't been putting any addition in that over the last, I don't know, it's been since 2019. There's been nothing added to it. But the notion here is that if we don't have any plans for new construction anytime in the foreseeable future, that restriction doesn't make a lot of sense to keep, and that we might be better off unrestricting it and allowing the use of that fund balance for maintenance.
And this is in the parking funds, and it was specifically for the Ann Ashley expansion.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Micah. Moving ahead to our changed order executive committee. At 11 a.m. this morning, the executive committee met. We reviewed today's board meeting agenda, but we also had a bit of new business. And I think I will ask Jess to maybe kick us off, and Jihei can also present what they have here for us.
So For folks that have been with the organization prior to Susan leaving, Susan Pillay, our last executive director, we know that we had sort of a pro forma system in place for managing the executive director, but that the board really didn't lead that process and didn't have a lot of visibility on the administrative side of the organization beyond it. And so when we started the hire process for the new executive director, we've known since the very beginning of this process that we were going to have to figure out new ways of managing the executive director position. As we went through that process, we decided that we would really kind of co-create what that looked like with the person that came in, who ended up to be Jeff. So Jihei and I have worked together kind of an initial proposed structure of what that could look like, and I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so first I want to preface it by saying that this is a first crack in a draft, not a final document. What we wanted to do is sort of get the conversation and the setup done so that we can continue this work. Because Jeff was hired and started in January, and it's already May. So first thing we did was to get notes from Maura and have conversations with Jeff and sort of decided on the timeline first. So we want to have 6-month expectations and 12-month expectations. And the 6-month expectations were picked from what Jeff has shared that he's already working on from Maura's priority list. So those things are working with the city on staff HR compensation issues, and then building relationships and setting himself up as the spokesperson and the authority for representing DDA. And there's a little typo, like the third one is the monthly share of the Jeff's work, share out of the Jeff's work, so information is more generously shared. So the goal is that we get some clear report outs on those for 6-month periods because we are sort of time crunched, and that gives us about a month to together work on the 12-month expectations. So we want to,
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So it's not 6 months from now. This 6 months would be
From the hire.
end of
Benchmark from
June?
hire.
So is that end of June or start of June?
Really mid-July.
Yeah.
Mid-July?
Yeah. So we want the 6-month review to happen around that time, and when that happens, the board also want to finalize, working together with the staff, Jeff, and the board members, what the 12-month goals look like. And then Jeff can sort of share in his progress, and then maybe at 10-month point, we'll have a bigger discussion, and then 12-month review will happen in January, which would be a 1-year point that Jeff's hired. We don't know what the 12-month expectations are because that's the work that we have to do in the near future.
And that's what we really want, kind of robust contributions on from the board, from staff, and from Jeff from his own perspective and experience.
So can I ask, are there actual deliverables? Because there's really just subject matters here.
I think what we discussed for the 6th month is because this conversation admittedly came a little later than it really should have. We're sort of capturing all the work that Jeff shared that he's working on from Maura's priority list. And what I would personally like to see is the report out on the work that has been done on number 1 and 2. And I would love to see the future path, because I don't anticipate that any kind of staff HR compensation issues will be wrapped up by then. It's just a month and then city's involved. So I want to see some, like, I don't know, goals, like where we're going with that conversation. So that's what I would like to see. But I think most of our work really will be focused on setting the 12-month goal.
And to your point, I think we don't totally know the answer to that question, and that's part of the point of the monthly share outs, is for us to get greater visibility on the work that's happening and understand receiving information in what format is going to be useful.
And the 6-month goal is admittedly loosey-goosey because most of the efforts between Jess and me were on setting up the timeline and the structure and providing sort of process for everybody to be involved so that 12-month goal is a lot more clearly documented and shared. So I expect, I would expect that that will be presented to the board for feedback in a lot greater detail than the 6-month one. Because we picked up this work in April and it's already May, and it only gives Jeff and the board another month to wrap that up. The 6 months one is fairly short.
So the list of priorities that came from Laura, I apologize if I missed that. Did we review those as a board?
I mean, they were shared out a couple of times to the whole organization, and we have not discussed them at the board table. They've been brought up, I think, once, maybe twice at EC. But because we haven't done this work before doing the work in committee, it wasn't sparking. So, yeah, and that's part of the reason that we want it to be a group conversation, is to bring that priority list to kind of greater profile. It was an awesome start, and there needed to be some nuance brought to it in terms of what's an area of responsibility versus what's a project, basically what's ongoing versus what has a deadline, what are the deadlines, what are the priorities, etc. So those are the things that you guys have been working on, and we really haven't, and we need to.
Yeah,
Is it possible for us to, can you resend that out so we can see what those priorities are? Because I feel like that's something that we actually could look at that list and then evaluate progress.
Absolutely.
More specifically to the list as part of this.
Yep.
So I want to also comment that the work done regards to 6-month point or so that Jess and I worked on was more focused on progress and setting up, less on the content of what the goals and expectations would be. Those conversations we want to spend this month and next month working with the board members, Jeff himself, and the staff members to have better content filled out.
Yeah.
Can I ask kind of what that process is anticipated to be? So we know how the board and staff and Jeff are contributing to setting these
So
goals.
I can answer that.
Please.
Yeah. So that is an excellent question. and
That was
it's-
going to be my answer.
Yeah, it's tricky because we haven't had this process. So some of it is Jess is sort of gathering information from other organizations to see how they do it as a reference. But for now, Jess and Jeff and I already have a meeting set up as a starting conversation. And once we have something to sort of kickstart the conversation, then we will have some meat for everybody to be then bite into and discuss.
My guess is that the way that it's going to look like is we do kind of the rough draft work offline with staff and with Jeff. We bring the rough draft to executive committee for discussion and further refinement. And this is for the 12-month goals. And then once we've got that a little bit more dialed in, bring that to the full board for discussion. We're still talking about at what point. I don't think there's ever a resolution in here. It's really more like consensus. And there was also something brought up in EC today about, what do we need to know legally in terms of what's done in the public eye versus what's done in closed session. That's an open question. We very much want to solicit the appropriate amount of feedback and engagement from you guys. And also, if anybody wants to get involved with this, please come in. We're welcoming feedback and anybody with ideas and experience. Does that semi-answer your question, Micah?
So it's in process.
It's very in process.
Okay.
It's very much early in process, I want to clarify.
Yeah, I think it's just important that gets communicated
Yeah.
clearly so everybody knows how these are being developed and how the process of review will go. But I think we had a lot of discussion about setting Jeff up for success, and I think this is a way, and perhaps we dropped the ball and being clear about how this will go. So I think we should remedy that quickly, and look forward to hearing more and participating as possible.
Yeah, I am really excited to do this work. I especially want to hear Jeff's vision for making DDA greater than it is now, and then
Is that possible?
well, we're gonna have to try. And I mean, getting the nitty-gritty details from the staff whose feet are actually on the ground and doing the everyday work, I think would be important, especially because this is a new work and a new process.
Thanks for putting all that time in.
Yeah, this is a lot of work
Sorry for
that
dropping
crosses
the
a
ball.
lot of like specialties like HR and legal and also Jeff and just making sure we're getting, so thank you for starting it.
There's a lot of people to thank already in this process, more first and foremost for keeping that document for over a year, I think. And then Jeff and Milton and helping us kind of fine tune the ideas. And I've been talking to service areas around the city, including the Housing Commission and the library, to understand how they manage in their sections. And it looks like we don't necessarily have to invent the wheel, and nobody's doing it quite like we might want to see it done. But I will say that the library actually has their director management process baked into their bylaws. So it's very clear, the trigger every year is the same, the process every year is the same, and that's the cleanest one that I've seen so far.
Wonderful. Any further discussion from the board? Yeah, again, thank you both for putting in the work. Staff, thank you. Jeff, thank you. This is really great moving the correct things forward here. It's progress. The next executive committee meeting is Wednesday, June 1st at 11 a.m. And I believe now we will move ahead to the AHEAD committee.
TK, can you do our update?
We did not meet. Our next meeting is May 11th.
All right.
And that one is with the partners.
May 11th, 9 a.m. with the partners. The Operations Committee, chaired by myself and Jonathan Massey, did not meet either. The parking revenue reports through March 31st are included in the board packet that you have on pages 49 to 54 if you'd like to review. But our next Operations Committee meeting is Wednesday, May 25th at 11 a.m. That concludes our subcommittee reports. We'll move ahead to new business. Is there any new business? Seeing none, we'll move ahead to public comment. Anybody who wishes to speak will have 4 minutes, and you're welcome to step up and address. Is there anybody who'd like to speak? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of adjourning today's Ann Arbor Downtown Development meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The meeting is adjourned.
Wow.